What is going on, YouTube? So I wanted to come back today. I meant to get this up yesterday. I didn't quite get to it. It's my part two or second position of the 2020 NBA Draft Big Board. Working on my top 5 shooting guards today. This one is, I think it's a little bit more interesting of a position than point guard. I think there's less certainty at the top of the shooting guard big board, kind of once you work beyond maybe the top 3. Excuse me. So go ahead and get right into it. I want to give a few honorable mentions because I feel like there's 3 guys that, and possibly more, but 3 guys off the top that I kind of struggled with deciding who to place at number 5. Among the honorable mentions, the first is Jahmi'us Ramsey, the about 6'4", 6'5" shooting guard coming out of Texas Tech. He was a freshman last season, so he'll be a one-and-done player. He'll be 19 years old at the likely start of next season. Averaged about 17.5 points per game, 5 boards, 3 assists, 0.8 steals, 0.8 blocks, 1.5 steals. On the surface, very, very good stat line. Up and down shooter, but overall, I really like what Ramsey brings to the table. It seems like Texas Tech keeps producing those shooting guards, wings that fall in the draft, that are falling in the lottery in the recent years under Chris Beard. Jarrett Culver, Zaire Smith. I think he had another one coming up in Terrence Shannon. But the next one coming up right now is Jahmi'us Ramsey. And really good playmaker, shooter. Again, when he's on, I think that'll be a big part of his game is figuring that out at the next level. He's a potent defender too. Can be lulled to sleep off ball at times, but I think he's got potential on both ends of the floor. So I think that's someone, depending on how much any team buys into him, could fall kind of like a early 20s pick in the first round, as late as maybe early second round. The other honorable mention that I have, and there's less certainty around him, is Leandro Bolmaro. He is, I believe, also a 20-year-old, pretty lengthy shooting guard coming out of FC Barcelona. He's an Argentine native. Again, lengthy, 6'7", 180 pounds, averaged about 8 points, 4 rebounds, about a little shy of 1 assist, and then half a steal, half a block per game playing with FC Barcelona over in Spain. He's a really, really quick shooting guard. He's got potential on both ends of the floor, just given his length, physical tools. He's got I think he's got a ways to go just in terms of his polish and his overall skill set. Again, a guy that's going to just depend on how much any certain team buys into him. He could be really potent in transition. Again, a good playmaker, very agile. He's a good finisher at the rim, might be able to get to the free throw line a lot. Again, he's very athletic, quick, on-ball defender, but again, has the tendency to foul a little too much. He needs to put on some size if he's going to be contending down low, especially if he's going to be driving to the basket a whole lot. And he's inconsistent as a shooter. I believe he was about 65, 70% from the free throw line with FC Barcelona. And again, up and down from 3. So I think that there's quite a few areas that will need to be improved in his game. I think he can fall anywhere from like 15 to 35. So there's a pretty big range. Again, depending on how much a certain team buys into him, he might have the most volatile stock of any of the honorable mentions or players on this part of the list. So moving to the top 5 here. Start off with a freshman, former top 50, 247 Sports Composite, blue chip recruit, shooting guard, very explosive out of Duke, Cassius Stanley. Now, I personally don't think the draft stock of Cassius Stanley is very volatile, just because you know what you can get from him. He's very quick off the dribble, very athletic, just gifted shooting guard, better on offense than I think he is on defense. Got to work on the shooting, but just overall put up some nice stats at Duke, about 16.5 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, about 1 or 2 assists, and 1 steal and 1 block. Statistically, he was a pretty good defender. And again, I think he's got potential on that end of the floor, but at about 6'6", 200 pounds, he's got the length to contend with pretty much any 2 guard that you would need. Again, along with his explosiveness, he should be really good there. He's got to stay a little bit more disciplined, I think. Again, got to find consistency in his decision-making, shot selection on the offensive end of the floor. But I think he could be a really solid fit around like maybe the mid-20s, early 20s in this draft. Athletically, definitely belongs in the NBA. Number 4, I've got Josh Green, and freshman shooting guard, former 5-star recruit coming out of Arizona. He was the focal point of the Arizona basketball program, especially among the starting backcourt, along with Nico Mannion. I think he was kind of overshadowed a little bit, but he checks off a lot of the boxes. He's got pretty good physical tools, pretty good athleticism. He runs well in transition. He's good in the open court, really good frame. He's already got a lot of the strength that you would like to have from a 2 guard on both ends of the floor. He's a good defender. He closes out really fast, smart off ball. The lateral quickness is definitely there. But I think he's kind of got a set ceiling as far as his play on both ends of the floor goes. You're looking at a guy that, and again, I don't like putting a ceiling on anyone, especially someone that was just a freshman in college. More than likely, though, I think Josh Green is going to fit the mold of, and again, still valuable in today's NBA, but a 3-and-D wing, probably more of a second unit player. Given that portion of the draft around the 10 to 20 mark is going to have a good amount of wings falling off the board, I think he'll end up falling kind of early 20s. He could slide up late teens, mid-teens if someone really buys into him. But again, I like what he brings to the table. I think he's got a quote-unquote high floor, but he's definitely got his limitations, especially offensively. Number 3, freshman combo guard, shooting guard coming out of Kentucky, Tyrese Maxey. One of the best playmakers in this class, kind of, in a way, fits the offensive mold of like an RJ Hampton, just in terms of really, really high ceiling offensively. And he can shake a lot of opposing defenders. I think he's got a ways to go in terms of improving his shooting, but I think he was already on the right track at Kentucky. The defensive game can use a little bit of work, but he's decent on that end of the floor as well. His frame itself, it's about 6'3", 195, 200 pounds, isn't exactly what you look for out of a combo guard or a shooting guard, but his wingspan's about 6'8", 6'9". So in terms of that, maybe not like a Wade Baldwin type wingspan, but he's got that to the point where he can probably make up for, and also with his vertical explosiveness, just on the defensive end of the floor. Good player in transition. I think he's a really instinctive, good playmaker. I guess just in terms of being a creator on the offensive end of the floor. His shot selection is kind of far ahead of his years that you would expect of a player of his age. He averaged about 15 points per game, about 4.5 rebounds, 3 or 4 assists, 0.4 blocks, 0.9 steals. He'll be 20 years old at the start of the 2020-21 season, so kind of right in the middle of the age of all the shooting guards in this class, at least at the top of the board. All right, so move on to, Tyrese Maxey. I think he'll be a late lottery prospect, so throwing that projection there. Number 2, Devin Vassell, one of my favorite prospects in this class. I really like 2 of the wings coming out of Florida State. A lot of people do. Devin Vassell and then Patrick Williams. Vassell, actually, I believe, will be one of the older players in this class, around 20 and a half, maybe a little bit older than that at the start, or at least the likely start of the 2020-21 season. But I think he'll fall in the top 10 in this class, just given I think he's got a pretty versatile skill set on both ends of the floor. Again, kind of fits that 3-and-D mold. But he's a really good shooter. He's pretty gifted physically, about 6'6", 180, 190 pounds. So he probably needs to put on a little bit more weight there. But a very fluid athlete. I think he shot around 42% from 3 over the course of his college career. His feel for the game on the defensive end of the floor has got to pick up a little bit. I think he kind of got lulled to sleep a little bit. Took some bad fouls while he was at FSU, but again, I don't like to put too much pressure on that portion of a wings game when they just spent 2 years in college. But again, he's a player that I think can start a lot of transition, run well. He'll be a fit with a lot of teams that need help on the wing because he checks a lot of those boxes. Averaged about like 1.5 steals and a little north of 2 blocks per 36 minutes, I believe, at FSU. Just in terms of his overall efficiency, his per game stats, very impressive. A lot of that will jump off the page at you. And again, I think he'll fall in the top 10. He might fall into the later portion of the lottery, maybe even the mid-teens, but I think that might be a little far. Some team might get a steal at that point. And number 1, and the far and away number 1, at least in my opinion, I have Anthony Edwards, about 6'5", 220 pounds, about 225-pound shooting guard out of Georgia. For most of the college hoop season for 2019-20, he was considered to be the top prospect in this draft class. I think there's still a good chance he could be the number one pick. If nothing else, I don't think he'll fall out of the top 3. It really depends on what outlet you look at. Some people are really high on his game just because he's got one of the higher ceilings in this draft class. And I think in terms of the quote unquote like high floor star potential, this draft class is kind of weird. So you have some weird terminology thrown in. But I think as far as the most sure thing that you could find of a quality starter or a star in this class, just given his offensive skill set, insane physical tools, strength, all that, and the game that's starting to, I think, kind of shine through for what a lot of people thought he would be at Georgia down the stretch. I think Anthony Edwards, again, first pick, top 3 minimum in this class. There's a lot of things that are concerning from his time at Georgia. Impromptu turnovers, decisions in transition or handling the ball on the perimeter were inconsistent at times, especially at the start of the season. And you kind of expect that. He just turned 19 like a couple of months ago. He averaged about 21 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, about 0.5 or 1 blocks per game, and then about 1.5 steals. So the per game stats are there, but he shot around, 30% from 3, about 40%, 41% from the field. The shooting percentages have to get an uptick there. He's got, I think the shooting ability and the shooting fundamentals are there to be at least like a 35, kind of like a average shooter, average threat from 3. That's all he really has to be. Again, given his skill set, the gifted physical tools there, just in terms of like the length, the strength, the explosiveness, the agility, the speed, he can really contend with anyone. Just taking people off the dribble, he should be the best player in this class. And again, given those physical tools, should be a really good on-ball defender as well. The defense is going to be a big question mark. It was very inconsistent game by game. So that effort's got to be there. Other, I think, potential weaknesses for him, again, the game still has a long way to go. I think he's trending up as far as how he looked at the end of the 2019-20 season, but he's still going to have a long way to go. It's going to take a couple of years for him to get there. Again, just the fundamentals and staying engaged on defense do have a long way to go as well. But again, I do really like Anthony Edwards, just one of my personal favorite prospects in this class, and I think he'll be really good in the NBA. But again, you also got the risk there. There's a lot of parts of his game that present red flags if you're picking in the top 3, if you're the Hornets, Warriors, or Timberwolves. So that pretty much does it for this portion of the big board. I will try to come back tomorrow with my wings, the small forwards in this class, which is one of my favorite parts of this class. So I will enjoy getting that part done. That's pretty much it. See ya.